All right, let's do this.
Welcome to the Let's Talk Bible podcast, the podcast about anything related to God, religion, and of course, the Bible.
Please remember that this conversation is strictly academic and aims to enrich our knowledge about the people and events in the Bible. However, we also welcome any questions regarding our faith as members of the International Light of the World Church. Hello everybody and welcome to the Let's Talk Bible podcast. My name is Misael, and on this episode I'm going to be talking about what it means to love yourself biblically, because it's important, even if this sounds kind of corny or cheesy, but it's important to do it right. And I think that when we kind of get these concepts right in our mind, they make a lot more sense and they're not as corny. So first of all, I wanted to say Happy New Year's to everyone. I know that we're in a brand new decade, so I'm doing this episode kind of to try and keep up with my New Year's goals, resolutions, whatever you want to call them. All right, so in talking about loving yourself biblically, I think it's important to establish that love in the eyes of God is not like love in our own very earthly definitions at times. So what I understand from love in the Bible is that love is synonymous with charity. And the passage I wanted to start with is a very well-known passage, but it's 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7. I kind of summarized it, and so I'm not reading the exact verses, but this is essentially what it says in the New King James Version. Love is kind, it doesn't envy, does not parade itself, is not puffed up. Love doesn't seek its own, nor does it behave rudely. It thinks no evil. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. End quote. So love, in the most basic of terms, love is selfless, essentially. So it was kind of hard for me at first to wrap my mind around loving yourself, because I didn't really see it as a spiritual concept. I saw it more as a trendy kind of phrase that people use to tell themselves that whatever they're doing is fine, whatever state or condition they're in is fine. And so it wasn't until I started thinking about it from God's perspective that I kind of realized that there is so much more depth to this, because my first question was, does God even want us to love ourselves in the same way that kind of the trendy expression goes to just love yourself, right? And I don't see in the Bible where God tells us to love ourselves, but he does assume that we do, because when he gives the commandment through Jesus, he says, love your neighbor as yourself. So he assumes that we do already love ourselves. And so we have to understand what that love looks like and how we carry it out in our own lives towards ourselves. So one of the passages that immediately came to mind when I was thinking about all this is the way God sees humanity, and more specifically us and our entire lives, to where, because God is all-knowing, that means that he sees not only our present selves, but he sees all versions of ourselves all at once. He knows us fully from our beginning to our end, because he knows all things. And so God says about Abraham, for example, that he was made father of a great nation, right? But Abraham didn't have children when God was telling him this. And so I want to use this passage, Romans 4:16, because it kind of describes the way God speaks to us or sees us at times, which reads, and again, I'm reading from the New King James Version, Romans 4, verse 17, the second half. God who gives life to the dead and calls those things which do not exist as though they did. So in the eyes of God, the present me is just as much a reality as the future me, because the future me who does not yet exist in the eyes of God exists, right? Because he sees all of me and all of my life and all of the life of humanity and all of its versions and iterations, from the past ones to the present to the future ones, all at once because he's all knowing. So if I am to love myself in the eyes of God, I have to understand that there's not just a single version of me, but that there are many versions of me. And to kind of, so we don't kind of go out too far with this whole concept, we'll just use three versions: past version, present version, future version. And I'm very fortunate in a way because my birthday comes right at the beginning of the year. So for me, I not only like welcome a new year like everybody else does, but I also am older, as in 1 year I'm one age and the next year I'm another age. So now that I'm a year older, this hit me a lot harder because sometimes I refuse to love myself because, again, from the passage in Corinthians, love forgives. And that has a lot to do with our past self because we can't correct that version of us. We can't go back in time and give ourselves advice. We kind of just live with the consequences of whatever, in my case, he did. So I now have to live with the consequences of what the 2019 version of me did. And there's nothing I can do to change any of that because it already happened. That version of myself already lived. And so now it's my present self that is here today, living the consequences of that version's actions. And so that past version of me had very good goals and started a podcast and started a YouTube channel and did some good things, but he didn't follow through and he wasn't very consistent. And now a year later, instead of me continuing on with that work that he should have done, and I'm talking about myself, I have to kind of start over. And so there's nothing I can do but forgive myself. And now I have a present version whose actions will affect the version of me who's not even here yet. Like our future self doesn't visit us and give us advice on like, hey, you should have done this or this is the way you should do things. No. He just has to, in my case, because I'm a guy, he just has to live with the consequences of what we choose to do now. And so if I am truly biblically loving myself, then I'm going to work selflessly, as in I will not indulge myself in the things that I want to do like my past self did. I have to not be careless with my health, careless with the way I spend my time, the things that I do, the habits I build, because I won't have to deal with the consequences. The future me will have to deal with the consequences. So this whole concept of loving yourself, I think, is important as long as we do it with this idea in mind that our life is always before the presence of God. And so I can't take a shortcut into the person I want to become. I have to work on it. And it's the responsibility of my present self. Again, it's this whole concept of me not only being a single version of me, but my past and future being different versions of me who have come and gone or who are yet to come. But if I am loving myself, I love all of me. And this whole idea of love that extends not only to one version of somebody, but to all of them, their past, present, and future, is also important when we deal with our spouses, for example, because when we're younger and we live by the lust of our flesh, like what differentiates love and lust is that lust only cares about the present, and it doesn't matter what the consequences are or who the consequences affect, but you only care about the present enjoyment of something. And so if you're like that towards your soon-to-be husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever you call it, and you're not taking care of them and their future version, then that's not real love, right? Because your vision is only centered on one version of them, when in reality, in the eyes of God, they have a future version who will have to live with the consequences of your actions today. So when we stop loving fully, if you are no longer invested in somebody's future, it kind of has a domino effect in the way you treat them now, because who cares about how they feel tomorrow, or who cares about your actions and how it will affect them in the future. And so, or if you can't deal with somebody's past, then, and can't forgive their past, and can't be okay with the person they used to be, then again, you're leaving a version of them out. You're leaving a part of their humanity out. And again, that's not love, because love is selfless. Love sees the past and can forgive it, sees the present and will take care of it, sees the future and can invest in it. And so if you're having trouble in a relationship, and this conversation kind of evolved from just myself to love in general, but it reminds me of the Pray Girl YouTube video that is out there, and I will also provide a link to that video. But one of the questions that my wife asked me in that video from somebody was about falling out of love, I think, and it really made me think about this whole concept of what exactly is love. And so I think that if you're starting to fall out of it, I think it helps to break it down into these parts. In my case, about my kids, I'm fully invested in their future. So I will do whatever it takes to get them there, to be successful. And then as far as my wife goes, I only have one. And it's for the rest of my life, as far as I understand it. So I better be invested in her future, and I want her to be successful and happy and at peace, because her future is just as much my future. And this is something that we kind of touched on in that video, but one of the reasons why I thought it was important for people to take care of themselves and to keep up with just very basic maintenance is because the love that we have towards one another is also a present thing, something that you want to have very alive in the moment. So you can't just think of their past, you can't just think of their future or just their present. If you want to love according to God's love, you have to learn to identify the whole spectrum of somebody's life, past, present, and future, your own past, present, and future, and learn to be selfless towards every aspect of one's life. If you have any ideas, any suggestions, comments, anything like that, please let me know. I don't have Facebook anymore, but I do have a Gmail, which is letstalkbiblepod@gmail.com. You could also visit our website, talkbiblepod.com, or you can just let me know directly. But yeah, I think here's two more stuff coming out this year, and I actually have been able to record another video at least, and this is actually my second time recording this particular video, so hopefully this one finally gets posted, and hopefully the other one gets posted too very soon. But I think that's it for now. Again, reach out. It's very encouraging when somebody reaches out and wants to get involved, whether it's in the discussion or whether it's just commenting or saying hi. I've noticed that some people have actually commented on past posts, and it's very encouraging. It's very nice. And I think this is all very helpful and important, but I'll get into that more on a separate video. Till next time, God bless you.